This is the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman, the podcast that deals with the early life of J.R. Hendrick in a narrated format. So let's join in on the journey. Welcome to the podcast. With me, as always, by satellite, J.R. Hendrick. Howdy. Now, the title of this podcast is Jim Hendrick the most bombarded administrator? Okay, so this is going to be an interesting take. It really is, because I don't know if there was any budget battle in real life in the summer fall of 96. But for the sake of let's just find out. Okay. It's July 7th after 7 a.m. After breakfast. J.R. and Kristen are listening to the Lutheran Hour. At 9:30 a.m. Central, St. Joseph's Assembly of Christ, Baton Rrouge. As his son is attending St. Ephraim's Assemblies of Christ in Lubbock. Betsy was already flying back to Midland. He's going to confession before Sunday school. It's 9 a.m. Okay. 11:45 a.m. J.R. and Max Hendrick get to the car where Carmen drives them back to the ranch. It was hard for J.R. to let go of a tearful Kristen, but Carmen motioned that it was time to go. And Larry Spalding promised that he would talk to Betsy about J.R. getting the family condo soon. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. Central. Back at the ranch, Christine is talking to her boyfriend David. How would this dork say? As soon as he gets home. What does this dork say? As soon as he gets home, he goes straight to his room. No hi or bye, Christine says. And Christine, you're really lathering it up. And David said, give him a break. He had to step back from his girl. He had to come back home to appear on radio. I mean, how cool is it that he's going to be talking to Andrew House while he's on location in St. Louis? Okay, so it's 7 p.m. Dinner that night at the ranch is hamburger steak, and Mike Fields offers grace. And Christine said, "Oh, Mr. Dorky finally shows up at the dinner table," Christine said. "You walk into the ranch, go upstairs to your room, no hi or bye, and Mike Fields is like, he's like, no, that's not. Lay off, Christine." And Betsy says, "How about things in Washington?" Betsy asked Kevin. "Oh, it was good. The senator was awesome. I love how he stood up to Senator Cordell Wheeler," Kevin McDonald said. "Give it a couple of weeks," Mike Fields said. "With Jim and Betsy's help, that Clark is going to be out of commission. Meanwhile, it was good that Pilgrim gave that boar some party discipline." Jerry, you notice how Mike Fields, he kind of talks BOAR, which is like kind of like some brand of cattle, I guess. Mike Fields, sometimes in dealing with politics, he talks kind of country, he talks kind of plain. He learned that from Granddad, of course. And Gerald's like, "Daddy says he needs to be shamed out of the Senate," Gerald said. And Elizabeth Marie says, "I personally would like to see that." And Betsy's like, "Oh, you will." And she's putting pickles on Elizabeth Marie's hamburger. "I spoke to a good business associate in Baton Rouge, and he's going to take care of it." And Mike Fields is like, "How was law?" And he's like asking, Mary Fields is like asking Gerald, "How was law school boot camp?" And Gerald was like, "Perfect. I enjoyed the Socratic method. I got enrolled, and I'm in Section C. The section involved in the 4-year law and public affairs degree," Gerald said. 11 p.m. Back in the mansion in D.C., Jim Hendrick goes to sleep after 7 hours of moping and pacing. He was missing and longing for Betsy, and he decided to end his relationship with Catherine Baird because he wanted to stay pure for Betsy. God knows how long that's going to be. So now we go to July 8th, 6:30 a.m. Breakfast at the ranch was eggs, fried or scrambled, toast, bacon, orange juice, and hash browns. with an option of milk, of course. And Elizabeth Lee asked, "Aunt Betsy, is it true that Uncle Jim is testifying before a House committee today?" And Betsy says, "Yes, he is. There is a budget battle in a couple of days. And Jim wants to get what he can passed before then." And Jera's like, "Well, I go on the radio, Andrew House show today to talk about my book. He's going to be broadcasting from Louisville, Kentucky, instead of St. Louis." Okay, so it's 8 a.m. Eastern. Jim is being questioned in the Longworth House office building hearing room by Michigan Congressman Mike Adams. Adams has been elected to the Michigan State Senate in 1976 and has been in Congress since 1978. Adams was friendly with many of Hendrick's causes. He can also, with a few, I had a few antagonizing questions as well. Okay, 9:30 a.m. Central. At the offices of Hendrick Oil, JR gets a call from Jim Bob Horton. "Haven't you heard?" Jim Bob asked with a tone of urgency in his voice. "Heard what?" JR said. "What's going on?" "Oh, JR, it was awful. Karen Kreider tried to commit suicide." "Oh my gosh." Donald broke up with her on the 4th. Later on that morning, her sister, Tony, found her passed out on the bed, pupils dilated. She's taken half a bottle of weight loss pills. The ambulance called Brad, who met her at Alliance Memorial Hospital. It was awful. "Where is she?" Jared's like, "Oh, where is she?" And Jim Bob's like, "Jehovah Rapha Mental Health. It's awful, JR. We're holding a special Bible study tomorrow night." "I hope you can put your differences with Brad aside." Now, with that, we're going to have a drink of root beer, aren't we, JR? I got to say, that's rich coming from Jim Bob. Because Jim Bob can have a sweet disposition, but he can also egg things on with his words. That's why my daddy said some point during the election campaign, a vote too, to stop being friends with him. Okay, so it's 12 p.m. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Betsy and Thomas had just finished getting some hogs ready to be taken to Big Spring for slaughter. At the same time, JR is on the Andrew House show talking about his book and about his future. 1 p.m. Eastern. After a long morning of testifying before the House Small Business Committee and working at the Entrepreneurial Affairs Agency, Jim said this at his home office to call his Uncle Isaiah. They said I have cancer, but Rebecca says that we can travel again tomorrow. We're flying extra early tomorrow morning. They got me on oral chemotherapy. I can stay with you through the 26th, Uncle Isaac said. Don't stress yourself, Uncle Isaac, Jim said. If I lay up here, like the cancer doctor says, I might as well just curl up and die. And if it's good enough for me to be like this, as George H.W. Bush, then it's good enough for me. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. 2 p.m. JR is horseback riding with Elizabeth Marie, Bobby, Amy Kathleen, and Max. Max works in the ranch with Thomas. And Kevin McDonald is getting ready for a Wednesday trip to Lubbock. 3 p.m. Central. Okay, here's a reintroduction to a character who is Betsy's best friend, Fern. Fern's car pulls up in the drive of the ranch, and she gets out to talk to Betsy on the patio. How was Baton Rrouge? Fern asked. I realized how much I love Jim, like I love him now, Betsy said. Along with the cheating. And Betsy's like, my daddy used to do that back in the 50s and sometime in the 60s. Why should I expect any better from my husband? That being said, I think he's done with the affairs for a while. You better pray he's done with chasing power, Fern said. This morning, I nearly tore up my marriage certificate with David if he didn't stop chasing that contract with Cadillac and Lincoln. And Betsy's like, you and I were just brought up differently, Fern. And Fern says, nothing says more to men than if he knows that you've got him exactly where you want him. And Betsy's like, that's what Mama used to say. The last 5 years of her life after Daddy passed away. Okay, so it's 4 p.m. Eastern. Jim greets his dream team warmly. He's getting ready for after a 2-week leave of absence. Wow. Tomorrow night, they will be speaking at the Ascension Christian College for a group of young Republicans. I'm surprised what I wrote in the script. Wednesday, all speaking engagements had to be curtailed because Gingrich and Dole were announcing a congressional battle of the budget. 6:30 p.m. Central. Dinner that night was hamburgers again. It's hamburgers. And everyone at the ranch sat down for dinner, and JR as the blessing. And Betsy says, "So Karen committed suicide," Betsy said. "I tell you, that is a weak family. Beggars, misfits, and gossip." And Jared's like, "Mama." "No, it's true." And the fact that Brad would get attracted to somebody like that shows he's that much of a good for nothing. He is. And Christine's like, "You got that right, Mom." And him being jealous of JR? Come on. And JR's like, "I understand he's down because of Karen. But if he says one untoward word, I swear," JR said. And David Smith says, "Don't expect that much out of a friend like him," David Smith said. "Anytime he's jealous of you because you've fallen in love, it makes him useless." 8 p.m., Betsy's in the home office calling Jim to receive a daily update. Now, this is where the interesting thing is. We're at July 9th at 1 p.m. at the EAA building. Jim is working with an intern to get together information for a press release to be released at 2:30 p.m. 3 p.m. Central. Betsy had a very busy morning helping Thomas get some cattle ready for an auction in Colorado City, Texas. Now, she is relaxing around the pool, drinking margaritas. Betsy. 6:45 p.m. Central. During the Bible study, everything was going well until Brad opened his mouth. "Funny, Hendrick, you go on vacation and everything just falls apart." Brad. We gotta punish you somehow. I think we're just gonna go ahead and give you the bell. Get schooled, buddy. Jealousy don't keep you friends. And JR, he says, I understand what Karen did hurt you, hurts all of us. But don't you lash out at me. I'm leaving in the morning for Baton Rouge on business. Don't expect to come with me. 10:45 a.m. Carmen drops JR and Tim Newcastle off extra early for his 12:10 p.m. departure for Baton Rouge to conduct business. 1 p.m. Eastern at the EAA, Jim is preparing the agency for the battle of the budget to decide what funding needed slashing and what funding needed to stay non-negotiable. Being a businessman, Jim was a serious budget hawk. But he would not compromise the legislation he supports. 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Back at 14 Heritage Gate, Jim gives a briefing to the press about the battle of the budget and gives his own budget regardless of whether the mainstream media favored him or not. 5 p.m. Eastern. Jim is having dinner with his dream team and Uncle Isaac and Aunt Rebecca. Enchilada salcedo with rice with mushrooms and green beans and Montana German chocolate cake. And Christine Dodd, who is a member of his exit team, Dream Team Expanded. At least one thing you can fight for is your rally Saturday in Macon, Georgia, Christine said. I sure as hell hope that Gingrich wins over Dole. I'll tell you something. That senator don't have a conservative thought in his head. Always thinks about conserving harmony in a dumb way, Jim said. And Uncle Isaac said he would last 5 minutes in the days of Eisenhower, Uncle Isaac said. I doubt any of that. I doubt any of them lack the courage back then. 10 a.m., Jim calls Betsy to give him his daily report. And anyways, man, poor Jim. Poor Jim, he's being bombarded. People are just being ugly. So, July 11th, 6:30 a.m., cinnamon rolls and donuts are for breakfast as the family sits down for dinner at the ranch dinner table, ranch dining room table. Of course, this morning, Mike Fields asks the blessing. And Christine says, oh, is this the 11th or 12th? I guess it's going to be the 12th. Something's out. It is. It's the 12th. Must have skipped a... So we're going to the 12th already. Man. 6:30 a.m. Christine rolls and, okay, breakfast. So now, Christine says, why did Kyle have to be gone for over 12 hours yesterday? Christine said. And Betsy said, don't judge him for that. It gives me a chance to see Madison and the kids, Betsy said. JR, Kevin, and Dave Smith are going to be back today, Bobby said. I hope this means more fishing. And Mike Field says, if this jealousy doesn't drive JR away, Mike Field said. Betsy, I'd watch him if I were you. Last year, I thought Brad was friendly. Now it looks like he's nothing but trouble. And Christine's like, my brother hangs out with him. It's a mystery to me. I don't think anything true comes out of his mouth. And why he's got to throw a knockout punch at my brother, I'd like to throw him one. And Betsy's like, Christine, what's the attitude? Betsy said. And Jared's like, and Betsy says, well, Daddy has a... And Christine's like, well, Daddy has a point. Both Brad and Jim Bob are bad news. Okay, so it's 8 a.m. From his office. Is it 8 a.m. or 9 a.m.? It's 8 a.m. From his office, Jim gets a call from Phil later apologizing for his previous behavior and wanting to join alongside him regarding the battle of the budget. 9 a.m. Central. Betsy is out sitting at the patio drinking a pina colada when Fern's car pulls up in the driveway. You ready to go shopping? Fern said. Can we walk a bit so I can stretch my legs? You mind? And Fern gets out of the car and she's like, well, sure. Betsy, what's the matter? Jim, the pressures keep battering him. Now, Jim is a tough bird. He knows how to bounce back. Well, yeah, I wish my daddy had never taught him about power. Because my husband just don't know how to quit. I know. I saw the Fort Worth Times this morning. They even needed a source. They're even lambasting him and some guy they said I'm in commerce named Trevor Martin. There's got to be a way to silence him. Where is he from? India, Alabama. But he has a business degree from Ohio State. Alabama is out of my reach. However, I know a family in Louisiana that has connections in North Carolina. Did he ever stay there? Mid-1960s to the mid-1970s. A government job got him out of North Carolina. 11:10 a.m. The Cessna carrying JR and Tim Newcastle taxis down the runway and departs from Baton Rouge, bound for Middle International Airport. 5 minutes in the air, the plane telephone rings. And of course, it is Jim Bob. No, it's bad. Karen's been released from the psych hospital. And Donald has agreed to go back to her, Brad said. Oh, now. Do we think that we can chill? J.R. said. I'll try, J.R. I'll try, J.R. 12 p.m. Central. Betsy is having the time of her life at the mall in Odessa. For consolation of what is happening with Jim, she bought some clothes, jewels, a new leather-bound King James Bible, and a cross with tassels to put on her car. And scene. I give this 3.1 root beers. A business trip to Baton Rouge and the ear back then of Senator Phil Graham. JR, I give this a cross with tassels, leather-bound King James Bible, 3.1 root beers. Thank you, guys. Hope you enjoy listening to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Gentleman. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, become a part of the adventure. This is the James Hendrick Empowerment Network saying until next time, get ready for the rest of the story. It gets a little bumpier from here.